Hello, I'm just going to make a video to talk about the duration of episodes that are going to be put in place before the full realization of UMOSRAS can actually happen. What we're looking at, firstly, I'm in the process of buying a second server to configure the vast majority of the IPv4 addresses so that I can sync the next phase of creating UMOSRAS as we progress towards the seventh and eighth dimensions, away from the actual infrastructure and connecting up of the grassroots and everything in the platform, as well as the server security and everything else that has to be involved with that. But I'm moving into the phase of connecting up all the configurations for the IPv4 addresses so that I link up the vast majority of the communications equipment through the second server to link up all DNS to the right network so that I can then start the next phase of putting in process, basically inviting people to come and share with me what I'm going to create. This process will take anything up to 1 or 2 years, maybe less, but it'll be a lot of work, and that whole process will not give us the full substance of creating UMOSRAS without people getting in touch and responding to the network that I'm creating on the second server. So I'm going to link up DNS from this server in my flat and also to that server at the other location, which is going to be put in process. And they're going to share DNS between each other and hopefully sequence the whole series of events that will lead to the culmination of the program of UMOSRAS being put in place. This process is basically there to put the next phase in line, as it were, which is Server the Village and the Sierra link up to Server the Village. As I move towards setting up the secondary server and configuring all the correct addresses in IPv4 format, we'll move towards setting up the server rack in Stroud, which will link both DNS from the UMOSRAS server and the IPv4 server to the server rack in Stroud, and that will ultimately configure everything that needs to be done as base standard for the next process in order to move towards the setting up of Server the Village in the existing legal infrastructure and the legal organizational direction, which hopefully will become UMOSRAS and SpaceTM. Plus also Sierra UK, which is all part and parcel of the UMOSRAS.uk mission coming online. So when and if that happens, which I'm hoping it will in the next year, the whole process of escalating the next phase towards the IPv4 processes will then have to be put in place to make sure that the right connections are put in place to people around the world, people on the platform, people are linked up to the proxy on the UMOSRAS server. We'll have to then fine-tune the configuration and deal with the color coding and the networking and the risk management and everything on the system that is there to refine the whole process of making sure that UMOSRAS is everything all singing and all dancing in terms of cybersecurity and technology, and therefore the whole resulting reality of this will be a platform. Okay, fine, we may potentially have the platform from the UMOSRAS server alone. However, without people and without a network of infrastructure that understands exactly what is going on within this community and ultimately at large in the rest of Europe and the rest of the world, where we're going to connect people and join them up either with their own platforms and their own seniority in different locations, or to bring them here in a sort of rapture style event where people will start coming here thick and fast to celebrate in the reality of UMOSRAS. Now, this whole process will have to escalate through the cyber dimensional security and technology and communications network, which will link people up, like I said, from all over the world. And it's an essential part in bringing about the reality of UMOSRAS. You can't just create a platform with no hope of having any people coming here to share it with us and to be part of it. We may have the locals in this community, but the locals biblically refers to the vast majority of people who have shared views and passions and communications link-ups, thereby from the IPv XYZ server, which will then bring in the right sort of people, the right sort of groups, and manage the system to make sure that we are a like-minded group of people, with different views on life, different perspectives on life, but a shared ideology perhaps, and a shared acceptance of the reality that we are putting in place here in UMOSRAS and that I've set up here for everyone to enjoy. So the next phase is a decisive one. It's the most important one of the three, I suppose, if you think of the production phase that I went through to create the universal pleroma that fell through me in the first place and became the all, and then second sequence of synthesization to sequence this reality through the creative infrastructure that was put in place by the existing legal infrastructure to ensure that we could have this sort of technology in place to sequence the reality of the universal creation as it starts to embed itself in the platform in the local area around me. And the final phase is linking it up and sharing it to the people and creating, I suppose, the kingdom or the realm with the people who come to share it with us and be part of it with us and who share in our ideology. And thereby, this is the most essential part of the whole thing. It's a selection process. It's not just selecting people, it's also opening it up and sending it far and wide to as many people in the sort of groups and associations and viewpoints that I believe the UMOSRAS infrastructure to stand by and to believe in. And the sort of people who will benefit from the process of managing this system as a shared ideology for like-minded people with the same agendas to have the reality of the platform of INA at their disposal. I can talk about the great and the good. Many of them have helped me set up my server. They've been useful. They've been influential in making sure that my agenda is listened to by people far and wide across the world, even though maybe I'm not a big player in the social media and on the media platforms. I'm not on television all the time. I don't get seen out and about making films and documentaries about my program. My videos are non-scientific, non-developed in communications. I don't use a camera, I just use a computer. I talk to it on the screen. A lot of people maybe don't understand what I'm talking about because I talk at length about things I've discussed in past videos that people don't have time to watch, all that sort of thing. But, these big fish, I suppose, have set me up to share this reality in sort of parabolic ways, I suppose, in many ways, so that people are understanding the reality is coming. And it's in the psyche around most people on the planet. And this is thanks vastly to the American experience. In a way, I'm partly living the American dream due to the technology that I'm using to process this whole system, and I'm proud of their work. And I love them as people. I think that they are very important. You are very important, American people, and you should never lose your place in the world. And certainly from a UMOSRAS perspective, you will definitely be first in the queue, if not a driving force behind and at the side of the whole UMOSRAS reality. But aside that, there are other people in the world. It's not just America. And there are other people who have influenced and used their power and money, if you like, to influence the right outcomes for what I'm doing, and to sort of bring it into reality within their country, within their spheres of influence, within whatever business or operation that they're directing. So I'm proud of those people as well. And because of that, it opens it up to the whole world, not just America, but China, Russia, Europe, Australia. The whole world will get a look at what I'm doing through the Lifebook. And that's, I suppose, the culmination of this intermediary synthesization period is the gradual emergence of the Lifebook from my server, from my setup. Now I've actually coined it as my own on my own server and put everything in place to synthesize it direct from my location. This process is the secondary phase culmination and will bring about the realization that people start to experience the reality of UMOSRAS and stories behind the creation of UMOSRAS, behind the pioneers, behind the seraphim, behind the angels, behind the people who designed the program or get made on the program in the future. These life stories that will come through as people get put through the sausage machine, if you like, and come into the reality of what we're creating in the Sierra reality. So the third phase is literally just addressing as many people as I can, just to say, look, if you're interested in this at all, if you've heard about it at all, if you're interested in these things, then maybe you'll like this. It's possibly going to bring me into advertising commercially what I'm doing and getting it set up so that I can get as many people accessing my work, not just in a stealth way through the Lifebook, but in a more upfront and personal way in social media and on television and other things, so that people can access my system as often and as freely as they like to see my works as they start to manifest themselves here and to decide whether they want to be part of it. And I will reach out to them as they reach out to me, or as they understand what's becoming the reality. And if they're happy with it, then I will reach out to these people and I'll make sure that they'll be part of the system that brings about the reality of UMOSRAS. Thank you for listening.